I love to write nonfiction. And what I've found is, it doesn't matter who you are in life. You can be the postal worker, you can be a teacher, you can be a senator or a musician, but everybody's got a really cool story.
We are currently reading a book called The Devil's Arithmetic about the Holocaust, and Miss Wilson has written a book and published a book about a true story in World War II. So I decided to have her come and talk to the sixth graders about writing a book, publishing a book, and the writing process.
So one of the things I've been doing for many, many years is interviewing different people, and then I get to write stories about them. When I first wrote this book that I'm about to tell you about, I wrote it out and I had my daughter read it, and she said, "Oh, this is a good story. Boy, does it need some work. You got to go back and change some things." So I would let my daughter read it, and then Edith, a good friend of mine who this story is about, I would let her read it, and she would give me her thoughts. And then, and it's a process, then after I found a publisher, you know what one of the first things was that they did? They assigned an editor to me from a university in Missouri. And guess what we did one more time? We edited again. But you know what? By the time that was finished, boy, it felt so good because I knew I had a really polished product. I find inspiration as a writer from people around me, and hearing their stories, it's like, oh, if that interests me, I bet that would interest somebody else. I have a dear friend named Edith. She's 81 years old, and when she was a little girl, she lived in Germany during World War II. I knew 20 years ago about her story, and I would write little short versions of it for a magazine. And we always laughed and said, one of these days we're going to write a book, and maybe even Steven Spielberg will do a movie. Well, that has yet to happen, but we'll see. You know, it could happen. So Edith had a husband named Hank who died a few years ago. And after he died, I knew that she was lonely and had time on her hands. My children were out in college and I had time on my hands, so I told Edith, I said, you know what? It's a good time for us to sit down and think about this story. So the process began. It's the story of a dear friend of mine. It's more about her mother, but Edith, who was a child in this family during this time period, it is her story. She's a dear friend, and it was published on her 81st birthday. It's about a mother's struggle to get her children through World War II Germany. It isn't a Holocaust story. It is, in fact, that different perspective, a German family trying to get through the war. And it's a fascinating story told from a different perspective that you don't hear as often. This is the Rupke family. Edith Rupke is my good friend. She's now 81. This is her as a little girl. Right there, that's Edith. And this is the rest of her family, her siblings. First of all, Bremen is a large city in Germany. It's on the North Sea, and it's a big, important port city. They built airplanes during the war there, and they built submarines, U-boats there. So if you're in a war with Germany and they're building things in your city, like airplanes and submarines, what do you think the British and American want to do to your city? That's exactly right. They want to make sure those factories shut down. They don't want this war to continue. Well, this is actually a picture of Bremen. I mean, it really got hammered during the war by all the bombs. So I thought that was pretty. I really liked that. And then my publisher said, you know, let's put some eyes on that to kind of make it a little kind of spooky, scary, I guess, because it was a sad time. It was a scary time. Well, he put some eyes down here, and he put some eyes from a 20-year-old girl who had mascara and looked like she'd been to Starbucks. Well, now, do you think that looks right for a World War II book? No. So I said, you know, I like that idea, but let's put some older eyes on there. Marta is the mom in this story. She's Edith's mom, and she wasn't a big woman. Those are her eyes. We decided, let's put Marta's eyes on there. So Edith cried when I showed her mom's eyes. While the United States didn't come into the war until like 41, In 1939, a few years before, Hitler's already invading countries. He's already started this war, and they took Edith's dad out of the picture pretty fast. We want you in the German army. That's the reason he's not in this picture. It's up to her mom to try and get her family through this war safely. Gunther, when he's 14 and the war starts going badly for Germany, they decided they needed him. He's only 14. So Marta, here's Marta, she's the mom. She's I guess the heroine of this story, and it is a true story. It's all about what she does to get her children through the war, and there's a lot of scary things that happen to them.
Just of the ways she writes the book and the layout. So instead of being in like the camps, it's in the cities. Because normally it's just them about Jewish people in the concentration camps, but this one's a different layout than most of the Holocaust and World War II books.
It sort of inspired me to like start like a journal of like important stuff that's happening in my life and stuff like that. So like if I ever wanted to write a book, I'd have facts in a journal that I could put in instead of trying to remember all of it.
I thought she was just going to come and talk to us about the writing process and stuff like that, but she gave us a taste of the book, which really interested me, and I went home immediately and told my mom, like, can you order this book for me because I want to read it.
I feel honored to have written this story, but it is her life, so I'm very honored that she allowed me to share that with people.